I'm recording and we'll send out a link after I get everything uploaded. So a couple weeks ago, I was in Orlando at a conference, and Brian Moran, the 12-week year author, was there, and we got the book. We went through the entire exercise of putting together a 12-week year, and it was great. So another kind of note, if you guys don't have the field guide, this is pretty cool because it has like all of the worksheets and everything that's referenced in the book. So instead of having like a little, worksheet in the book, they're all in here. If you don't already have it, that could be something that is beneficial to purchase or use. So gonna go through this here. So if you don't already have the book, I would recommend purchasing it. I'm going to go over basically a summary of the 12-week year and kind of a summary of the bigger picture of a lot of the items in the book. But there's a lot of great takeaways that I would recommend getting the book so that you have it. So would love to hear if you have the book or if you've already read it. Drop that in the chat. If you haven't yet, that's cool too. Feel free to share that as well. But planning your 12-week year. So something that's kind of interesting in most industries, results spike in the last quarter of the year. People go for a 60-day or a 100-day push to hit their targets coming up towards the end of the year. So why do we only do this at the end of the year? If we could create the same focus, the same energy, urgency, and everything throughout the year. So when you change your focus and think in 12-week cycles, you're going to use every day and every hour more deliberately to increase your productivity. A 12-week window is also more effective because it's much more predictable than 12 months. It's also short enough to drive focused action, and it is long enough to get meaningful results. So the first thing in thinking about the 12-week year is discarding annualized thinking. So there was a section in the book that really resonated with me because as I first started reading it, it's like, the end of March, and it basically is this. Think about it. We begin the year with big goals, but by the end of January, we usually find ourselves slightly behind where we need to be. Well, we're certainly not pleased. We're not too worried either because we think to ourselves, I've got plenty of time. I've got 11 more months to catch up. But at the end of March, we're still a little bit behind, but we're not too worried. Why? Because we still think we've got plenty of time to catch up. And this thought pattern prevails late into the year. We mistakenly believe that there is a lot of time left in the year, and we act accordingly. We lack a sense of urgency, not realizing that every week is important, every day is important, and every moment is important. Ultimately, effective execution happens daily and weekly. So one of the first things that when you're reading the book is talking about discarding that annualized thinking. And the other thing is talking about how in the long run, your actions are always congruent with your underlying thinking. So when you focus on changing your actions, you really only experience incremental changes. But when your thinking shifts, then everything changes. So that's something that is a big part of this book. And one of the first things and the first exercises is talking about vision. So creating a big vision. The larger your vision, the greater your results will be. Big thinking always precedes big achievements. So one of the first things to do when you're thinking about your 12-week year is thinking about your vision. So thinking about the things in have, do, and be. So what I would like for you to do is take a piece of paper and write down have. And the first thing to think about is writing down things that you would like to have in life, both material and non-material. So not only in the short term, but more in the long term, thinking bigger, what are some things that you would like to have? So go ahead and write those down on your piece of paper. Feel free to drop a few in the chat if you would like to share of things that you would like to have in your life. seeing some things being dropped in the chat right now as far as things to have. Better time management, debt-free, income properties, nonprofit, traveling more, being successful in order to give back to others, retirement savings. So as you're thinking about some of these things, I like a lot of these ideas, but really try to dig in as to like how much, passive income, right? What does that look like? What's the number? Is that $10,000 of passive income a month, or is it $100,000, right? Wedding funds, rental property, 20 rental properties. I like that specific number there, but really think about what that looks like, and what would be, the things that would be important to you, as far as, how many rental properties you could be looking at. It could be how often you want to travel, how much you want in savings. Maybe you want a beach house, maybe you want a specific car, maybe you want a jet, maybe you want to buy me a jet. I don't know. What does your net worth look like? How often are you traveling? Where are you traveling? Things like that. So as we work on that and drop in the things that we want to have, let's also think about the things that we want to do. So perhaps that's going to a Super Bowl. Perhaps that's, different things that you might want to do. So let's take a minute or two and try to brainstorm on things that you would like to do. Feel free to drop any of those into the chat if you'd like to share, but drop in things that you would like to do. Heather, I would also love a personal assistant, house cleaner, and cook, but running a marathon, paying off kids' debt, an Alaska cruise. All of these sound so fun. I appreciate you guys sharing. Traveling with kids. Reagan, where do you want to travel to? One of mine that I wrote down that I thought would be really cool is going to all of the continents. I think that would be kind of cool. Renovating your house, running a 5K, going on an international vacation. These are exciting. And then finally, on your list of things that you're writing down, think about be, right? So who would you like to be? Oh, that's a fun one. Going to the Met Gala and then the Tomato Festival in Spain. Those would be fun things to do. Next up, let's write down who you want to be, right? So that could be lots of different things. But what version of yourself would you want to be? What characteristics would you want to have, or things would you want to embody? Well, so I'm seeing a lot of things about being a better version, having more stability, being more centered, not being dependent on other people. So, think about this list of the have, do, be of things that you want in life, not necessarily commitments, but things that you would like or you see as your ideal self. All right. So as we're working on this, you should have hopefully a good list of things that want to have in life, kind of your dreams, hopes, and desires. So the next thing is basically constructing a vision of your life. And that can be 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years into the future, right? So for this, basically what you would want to do is have this aspirational vision, right? So this could be, what your life looks like in 5, 10, or 15 years. Um, you know, so this could be again like bullet points, or it could be kind of more of like the letter to yourself or the letter of what your life looks like, at that time. So, I guess we're in 2022. So that would be 5 years would be 2027, or in 10 years at 2032. So think about what your life would look like in that 5 or 10 or 15 years. And either write out some bullet points or um your kind of letter to yourself, and hopefully you have a good list of things that you want to have, do, and be in that time frame. So try to pull some information from that list, and really be bold and dream big on what your life would look like in 5, 10, or 15 years. Yeah, 2032 does sound really far away, but it isn't really that far away. And so this is a good opportunity to kind of take that blank piece of paper and really, bullet point out or list out or write out what your life would look like. What your income looks like, what your passive income looks like, what your investments look like, what your family looks like, what you look like, what your life looks like. So we'll give a minute or two to work on that. And this is something that obviously, in honor of time, normally this would be a longer exercise, but, definitely go back to this and finish it out if you're not finishing in the limited time that I'm providing. And if you all have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A or in the chat. But we'll take another minute or so on this, and then we'll move on. But this is definitely something that y'all should be finishing out on your own, because I think it's really powerful to write, kind of that letter to yourself of what things look like in 5 or 10 or 15 years into the future. Cool. So as we move forward, you have this longer term vision, this aspirational, kind of vision and goal for you into the future. So the next thing is to kind of bring things in a little bit closer, right? So in 3 years, where will you be, right? So writing that down, if we're looking from 2022, 3 years from now, how old will you be in 2025? And then what does your life look like? you know so again, kind of looking at that how do be list, what are the things as far as your spouse, as far as your family, your health, spirituality, your social life, finances, intellectually, emotionally, and lifestyle. What are the things that you picture your life to be in 3 years? if anyone has anything that they would like to share as far as their 3-year vision and where you see yourself in the next few years, please feel free to drop that in to the chat. And we want to think about this not only in your personal life, but also in business. So thinking about, again, in personal, you want to think spouse, family, health, spiritual, social, financial, intellectual, emotional, and lifestyle. But then if you want to also think about this from the business aspect, some things to note, right? What is your ideal profession? What areas do you excel in? What value do you create and what difference will you make? Where do you feel most fulfilled? What will your income be? How much time off will you have? What position or role will you have in your life? Will you lead others? If so, what will your team look like? If you're an entrepreneur, will you have branched out to multiple locations? What's your service model? Will you have a referral-based business? Just some things to think about. So again, map out that personal vision, map out that business vision in what your life looks like in 36 months. So we'll give another minute or so here. So again, as far as the time allotted today, you probably won't have all of this written out, but it definitely hopefully provides a framework for you to start to put these thoughts into place. Some of the things to think about when you are thinking about your vision and pitfalls that some people fall into is, number one, not taking the power of vision seriously. It's hard to do this sometimes, especially for type A people, but it's helpful to align your plans with your vision. So taking the time to actually plan this out and write this out and have it pen to paper is good. Number two, another pitfall, not making your vision meaningful to you. So sometimes we're superficial in crafting our vision. We don't capture what is truly meaningful to us. So try to keep working until you have an emotional connection to what you're writing down. And finally, number three is making your vision too small. So small visions don't call in your best efforts. This should make you feel a little uncomfortable and challenge you to do things differently. So those are just a few pitfalls. As far as action items, a couple ones is, number one, sharing it with others, become committed to it, right? Number two, staying in touch with your vision. So print it off, make a copy, keep it with you, and review it often. Number three, connect your vision to your daily action. So every day is an opportunity to make progress towards that vision. And then finally, number four is be intentional. So take a few minutes every day to reflect on the progress that you made each day towards that vision. So a couple of questions and things to think about as far as your vision goes. Why are the elements of your vision important to you? What will you be able to do if you reach your vision that you cannot do now? What will be different for you, your family, your friends, your peers, clients, and community if you reach that goal? Are you willing to commit to the actions needed to reach your vision? And then who have you shared your vision with? What actions do you have to take to make progress on your vision and reach that 12-week goal? And then what risks or barriers exist that may get in the way of you reaching your vision and your goals? So just some additional things to think about give you another minute or so to finish up what thoughts you may have, and we will continue on as far as creating some goals. All right. So there are a few components of the 12-week year that are important to remember as we start to work on 12-week goals and implement the 12-week year. And those are accountability, commitment, and greatness in the moment. So accountability. We tend to have a tendency to look outside of ourselves for things to change or improve. So we're waiting for the economy to pick up. We're waiting for the housing market to make a change. We're waiting for more competitive pricing. We're waiting for better advertising. So remember that accountability is the willingness to take full ownership for your actions and the results, regardless of your circumstances. Number two, as far as principles, is commitment. So commitments do require sacrifice. Too often we commit to something but don't count the costs. So costs can be time, money, risk, uncertainty, or loss of comfort. So remember, we want to act on commitment, not on feelings. So there are going to be times where we won't necessarily feel like doing critical activities that we need to do, and learning to do the things that we need to do regardless of how we feel is very important. And commitment is doing whatever it takes to keep the promises that we've made, both to ourselves and to others. And then finally, the last principle is greatness in the moment. Results are not the attainment of greatness, but the confirmation of it. You become great long before the results show. And again, this ties back into the commitment as well a little bit, but making the countless decisions to do what's needed, even if you don't feel like it, and immersing yourself fully in the present. So what we are going to work on a little bit now is creating our 12-week goals. So the best 12-week goals are going to be realistic, but enough of a stretch that they are going to call on you to deliver your very best. Because if you make them too easy, they don't matter. No, but they should be a slight stretch, and why is it important to you? So if you hit this goal, what will be different in your life? Thinking about your 12-week plan and your 12-week goals, they need to align with your long-term vision. So that's why the first exercise is really putting together that vision, not only that aspirational vision that's maybe 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road, but that 36-month plan as well. So where do you want to be in the next few years? I think something else that's important to point out is staying focused. So don't establish too many goals. Identify the most important things that will get you to where you need to be, and the most important tactics to help you achieve those goals. And then finally, keep it simple. So these are kind of the things that we're going to go over or have gone over. So vision, planning, process control, measurement, and time use are the key disciplines for top performers. Top performers are great, not because they have better ideas, but because their execution disciplines are better in these 5 things. So having a clear vision for an inspiring life, and having a business vision that aligns with your personal vision and enables your personal vision, right? Planning, so breaking your broad vision into a concrete plan, both with priorities, goals, and action steps. That process control, so the set of tools and events that align your daily actions with the critical actions in your plan. Measurement, providing vital feedback and looking at both lead indicators and lag indicators. And time use, making better use of your time, something I know I could do, and I'm sure we all feel the same way. All right, so As far as making your 12-week goals, this is what the worksheet looks like in the field guide, or if you Googled like 12-week goals, this is kind of what it would look like, where you're going to write your goal at the top of the sheet where it says goal, and then the tactics needed to get to that goal. So as you are planning out your goals, they should be these 5 things. So number 1 is specific and measurable. So we want to not only quantify, but also qualify what success looks like. We want to state them positively and focus on the positive. Also ensure that they're a realistic reach. So if you can accomplish the goal without doing anything different, then you probably need to stretch more. You need to assign accountability. So having individual accountability for your goals is super critical. And then finally, they need to be time bound. So you should have a deadline to get things started and keep them moving. So the book has a couple of examples. One of them is closing a certain dollar amount of business in a certain period of time, right? So the goal is specific in the amount of new business that you may want to close. And perhaps this is realistic, perhaps it's unrealistic, maybe it should be higher, maybe it should be lower, over the next 12 weeks. And time bound. So this is something that in the book, they were saying that you wanted to close this business in 12 months. So that's the top thing that would go on the goal category. And then the tactics are the bullet points underneath. So what are the things that you would need to do in order to achieve that top line goal? So if you're looking to close more business, perhaps it's a specific amount of calls that you need to make per day. Perhaps it's a specific amount of meetings you need to schedule per week. Maybe it is, in bullet point 2, conducting a minimum of blank appointments, initial appointments per week. Following up with prospects, and then creating a sales tracking graph for your wall and update weekly. So when you flip back and forth kind of between like your goals that you're writing down and the weeks due, what you want to think about is some of these things will have a specific due date, right? So maybe creating a sales tracking graph for your wall would be a week 1 task, right? But calling a minimum amount of prospects per day or per week and scheduling a certain amount of meetings per week would be something that would be due every single week. I hope that makes sense. If that makes sense, drop a yes in the chat for me, please. Webinars are fun because you're basically just talking to a camera. Okay, we're getting a few yeses. Awesome. So you guys are still with me. That's awesome. Very much appreciated. If y'all have a business goal that you'd like to share that you would like to achieve over the next 12 weeks, please feel free to drop that in the chat. Would love to hear them. Cool. So seeing a few as far as the amount of buyers or the amount of closed volume, time blocking calendar, how many closings they want, how many deals completed. Oh, and specific of how many listings and how many buyers that's going to be, how many millions of dollars closed. Awesome. Good deal. So a lot of these, as I'm sure most people on here in real estate, but for a lot of these, it's a specific amount of, volume. So for some of them, I'm already seeing people breaking them down into how many listings and buyers they want to close in that time frame. So how many calls to buyers will you need to make? How many appointments will you need to set? How many new, listings will you need? Things like that. So really break that down and get specific on those tasks that need to happen. As y'all are working on that, one of the other examples in the book was related to personal fitness. So I think the goal in the book was losing 10 pounds. So some of the things that they put in there were a limitation on calorie intake, a certain amount of cardio, and that should say week, not day, but 30 minutes of cardio 3 times per week, not day. Drinking at least 6 glasses of water per day, and training with weights at least 3 times per week. So perhaps there is a goal that you want to achieve as far as a personal goal. Most of the ones that they have in the book are just around sales and weight loss. But if you have a personal goal that you're looking to achieve, please feel free to drop that in the chat as well. So this was one too where some of the additional things that they had in here was like joining a health club, right? Or joining a gym or attending a fitness class or something like that. So that would be probably something that would be a week 1 task. And then most of the tasks that are listed here as far as, calorie intake and, how many times you're doing cardio per week and training with weights and drinking water, those would be an every week thing. So some things will be, a one-time thing, and others will be a weekly thing. And again, that's the same for not only your personal goals, but also your professional goals as well. And then the third example that they gave in the book was another personal one, and that was improving, a relationship. Carol is the person in the book, but with, your partner or whatever that may be. And, it could be having date night. It could be improving your relationship with your kids, with your parents, with a significant other. Lots of examples here. And the example given in the book was like having a date night without kids once a week. But if you're, looking to improve your relationship with a friend or a family member or something like that, perhaps it's, a daily call or a weekly call or something like that. So again, as you're planning this out, the tactics that go down below should be specific. These are going to be the basic things that you need to do each day or week in order to get closer to your goals. In the book, there's probably 5 or 8 lines, right? This may be something that you have to have a bigger piece of paper. But, try to summarize your goals and the tactics and things that you need to do into, specific things that are easily done. If you have 45 tactics per goal, that's definitely going to be a lot more difficult to get through than, something that has more specific and shorter tasks. The other thing, as you're writing out the tactics and things to do, try to write them as full sentences for actions you're going to take. So, as you can see on here, these are full sentences of, things to be done on a daily or weekly basis. So as you are putting this stuff down, think about what actions you may struggle with, and then think about what you will do to overcome those struggles. We give another minute here to write down whatever other goals you may have, or jot down some of the ideas that you have. Keep in mind too, as you're planning out the weekly plan, it shouldn't include all of your tasks for the day. These should be the most specific things and, actionable things that will get you closer to your goal. So this shouldn't be your entire to-do list for the day. It should be the specific things that you should be doing on a daily basis. Keep in mind that not every week is the same. So, week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 10 are going to be different. So there may be changes in what you need to do on a weekly basis. So as we are finishing that up, one of the things that I talked about earlier was lead indicators and lag indicators. So lag indicators are really going to be the end results, while lead indicators are the things that happen early in the execution process. So if you look at a goal of trying to lose 10 pounds, the total weight loss goal of 10 pounds would be the lag indicator, right? But the lead measures or the lead indicators would be your number of calories that you're eating, or the number of workouts that you're doing, the number of miles that you walk, different things like that. So you want to try to track both lead and lag indicators when you are working on these things. So for example, if you guys have production goals or sales goals, obviously the lag indicator would be the number or dollar amount of sales volume that you want to have. But those lead indicators could be appointments set, that could be listings taken, it could be phone calls made, and different things like that. So really think about both the lead and lag indicators. And definitely break those down. So keeping score is important. Basically, once you have your tactics written out and who should be responsible for those tactics, what you want to do on a weekly basis is take a few minutes at either at the end of the week or the beginning of the week and track all of these things. So if we go back to the workout plan, right? So you would look at your week and say, for each day of the week, how many times did I achieve my calorie intake of this specific amount of calories? How many times, if it's a minimum of 3, did I do at least 3 30-minute cardio sessions? Did I drink at least 6 glasses of water every day? Did I do weight training at least 3 times per week? And you would take the total amount of time you did these things, and then you would take the total amount of times that this could be done and divide them for a percentage score to kind of score yourself each week. So this is something that wouldn't necessarily be done right now, but just something to think about on a weekly basis. All right. So next up is accountability. So one of the most important things as far as accountability is having someone else to, talk with and, go over these things with. So what they talk about in the book is a weekly accountability meeting where you go over a couple different things per week. And basically this would be in a small group setting where you would give your individual report to the group, where you provide your results for the 12-week year to date, the weekly execution score. So earlier when I was saying you take the total amount of things you did divided by the amount of opportunities for those different categories, that would be your percentage or your weekly execution score. And then what your intentions are for the coming week. And then you would receive feedback and suggestions from the group. So each person would do that. And then you would also go over successful techniques. So as a group, you would discuss what's been working well, and then how to incorporate these techniques into one another's plan. And then finally, some encouragement. So what I would recommend doing, there's obviously a lot of people on this call. Perhaps you can find an accountability partner or group in this call. But if it's something that you're going to implement, in your office or your team or something like that, picking, a couple of people to hop into an accountability group together to share these things on a weekly basis would be beneficial. If you already have an accountability group, please let me know in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. Or if you need an accountability group, drop it in the comments. And hopefully you can find one. Pretty much everyone that's on this call found it either via Instagram or Facebook. That's really all I did as far as putting this out into the world. So, if this is something that you're implementing, this might be a great opportunity for you to drop this on like your Instagram or Facebook or something, to, find some accountability partners. But there's people in here that are saying they have one. Some people are saying they need one. So definitely, see where you can link up with a new friend, perhaps. All right. And then I'm sure everyone has seen these before, but the final thing to talk about is planning out your week. So all of this sounds great. We have like all of these grand ideas of the things that we're going to do. But when you think about like discarding the annualized thinking about your 12-week year as a year, then each week effectively becomes a month, right? And when you think about that, then, there's a lot more that can be done on a weekly basis, right? So it's probably been a while that you've sat down and kind of planned out your week, or at least an ideal week, and what that may look like for you. So what you can do is basically take, Sunday through Saturday in hour increments or 30-minute increments from when you wake up to when you're done for the day. And when you look at time blocking, there are kind of two sections of your time that you want to kind of plan out. And the first are strategic blocks. So those would be around 3 hours. And this would be for the high level critical work, right? So a quick time for you to reconnect with your vision, right? Have that 12-week review. So what we were kind of talking about as to like where you're at, how well you're doing on your different, components or tactics of your 12 weeks. Assessing performance breakdowns. So, if this goes back to the personal stuff, or even the work stuff, like if you, missed your cardio, if you didn't drink your water, if you didn't make your phone calls or make your appointments, why was that, right? Where were there breakdowns in your performance? And then work on your planned tactics. So working on those bullet point items of the things that you need to do to move the needle forward. Okay. So that would be a strategic block, would be about 3 hours. And then the buffer blocks, right? So these are the things that generally take up the 3+ hours of our day, but reviewing emails, listening to voicemails, making those outbound phone calls that you need to make, following up on your to-do lists, those gotta minutes, right? Organizing your work and identifying new to-do list items. So a lot of times when we look at our week, the buffer block things that I just named out are the things that take up the majority of your day, right? Not the plan tactics and the things that move your business forward. The kind of busy work items that often take us off task. So when you look at your day, you really want to focus on those strategic blocks, that high level critical work, reconnecting with your vision, reviewing your vision, looking at it, reading at it, if you have it printed out, reading it, assessing your progress. Are you advancing towards that vision? Again, that 12-week review. So reviewing the metrics, looking at your results versus your goals, and reviewing both those lead and lag indicators. Assessing performance breakdowns. If there is a breakdown, what's the root cause? And then finally, again, working on plan tactics. The strategic blocks also could include reading books, taking online courses, and then towards the end of this 12 weeks, perhaps planning out your next 12-week year. So again, taking a look at your day in the 12-hour sections, or however many hours it is that you are up and productive, and kind of blocking that out for those strategic blocks, and then putting in those buffer blocks. And in the book, I think they have an example calendar. Maybe it's not in the book. It might be in the workbook, but that is something that is important. So a couple of, okay, yeah, thanks, Deborah. It is in the field guide. So a couple of things to think about when you're working on your week. You want to block out 15 minutes on Monday mornings to review your past week and plan for the current week, right? Number 2, we want to schedule our 3-hour strategic block. Number 3, we want to schedule 1 to 2 buffer blocks each day, Monday through Friday, typically 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. That buffer time will vary depending on what your individual and admin workload looks like. We want to also schedule a breakout block. So time that is, kind of free time for yourself. And then finally, we want to schedule all of our additional important activities. So those could be client meetings, prospect appointments, any standing meetings you may have, marketing and sales, planning, required administrative and operational tasks, preparation for client meetings and customer service, project work, referral lunches, one-on-one coaching sessions, and personal tasks. So that's in the book. This is page 134 and 135. But in the field guide, they do have an example of the ideal calendar. So that's all I've got. I hope that this was helpful. Today is actually a Monday, which is the ideal time to start a 12-week year. And this would be the start, obviously, of kind of the start of Q2. So it'd be a good opportunity to work on your goals for the next 12 weeks and get them laid out so that you have a solid plan for the next quarter. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to shoot me a DM. Always happy to help. And yeah, so as far as, if you have any questions, please let me know. And looking forward to seeing your goals for the next 12 weeks. And yeah, I'll talk to y'all soon.